Hi, this is Chris Herron from Tiles. You're watching MOROW.com, your source for progressive rock. We formed in 1993 around drummer Mark Evans and myself. We released our first CD, simply titled Tiles, in 1994. It was further released in 1995 throughout Europe and Japan. We followed that up with Fence the Clear in 1997, Presence of Mind in 1999. A highlight of 1999 was our tour with Dream Theater in Europe in November on their Scenes from a Memory tour. It took us a while due to a variety of interpersonal challenges, but we finally followed up Presence of Mind in 2004 with Window Dressing, and here we are in 2007 preparing for the release of our fifth CD, Flypaper, for the end of January 2008. We are, I guess, what you would call a progressive hard rock band. Kind of bridging the gap between melodic hard rock and some of the harder edged progressive rock bands like Rush or Queensryche. There didn't start out being a concept. We had just come off Window Dressing, our fourth CD, which was clearly a concept. And I don't know, I guess you go through a project like that, you want to do something different the next time around. So we just expected Flypaper to be a collection of songs that didn't necessarily have any kind of a theme. But then once we were nearly finished, clearly there was a theme, and it was tended to revolve around human vulnerability and some of the reactions that come from interpersonal relationships. Sounds kind of academic, but it's not really. It's a lot of the songs deal with sometimes how you respond to pressure. I mean, do you kind of retreat, or do you meet the challenge head on? More than likely it's a combination of both. Another song, Crowded Emptiness, deals with you could be in Paris with millions of people and just great opportunities for any activity, and yet you could be alone. Another song, Markers, deals about the problem some people have with living in the future. I mean, you're thinking about what's next to the extent that you're not slowing down enough to enjoy the present. And so as I kind of went through some little general synopsis of the songs with our art director, Hugh Syme, and explained this to him, he kind of came up with, well, at first he came up with Fly Stuck to Paper, and we thought, well, that's a little obvious and maybe a little gross. And so he came back with the paper airplane flying over New York City, which represents kind of how fragile all of our societies are, keeping people coexisting to some degree. And the paper airplane kind of represents the real airplanes of 9/11, but it also represents how the paper itself, if you flew that into anything, unless it poked your eye out, it wouldn't hurt you necessarily. But if you look at the paper airplane, it's got words on it, alluding to the fact that literature and the printed word and politics and whatever can be just as damaging as any kind of violent activity. So all of that kind of came together between the music and the lyrics and the artwork. back when we were finishing Presence of Mind in the end of 1998, actually, that was mixed by Terry Brown. And Terry and Hugh have been longtime friends since their mutual collaborations with Rush. And Terry got done mixing, and we were listening to the playback, and he turned to us and said, well, you know, this CD is really good. Which, you know, we kind of thought it was good, but he thought it was really good. And he said, you know, you should really make sure the artwork does justice to the music. So we said, well, okay, we'll try. And he suggested we get in touch with Hugh. So we did, and that kind of started our collaboration with Hugh. So it was Terry Brown's fault.
All that I do and say, empty heart and a crowded mind will make.
Well, I mean, that was Terry also. Although he's not our manager, he sure does a lot of things that help us. So the story of this goes, Terry's brother, who's a producer in England, had just got done working with David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. And so we were sitting around the studio thinking about, well, what can we do to make people pay attention to Flypaper? And I said, well, why don't you ask your brother if David Gilmour will do a guest solo? And he said, well, I don't know. So then I said, well, and his brother produced a Robert Plant album a few years ago. So I said, okay, fine. Why not ask Robert Plant if he'll guest sing? And so Terry laughed again and said, well, you know, I'm laughing, but maybe that's not a bad idea. What if I give Alex a call? I said, oh, that would be good too. So he called Alex and played 3 or 4 of the new tunes, and Alex was real excited and interested in it. And he had just done some guest work on Porcupine Tree's latest album. And he had just finished recording Snakes and Arrows. So, I mean, the whole timing thing worked in our favor.
Tangled up in.
It is. Believe it or not. I mean, you know, we've thought about this a lot, and we've toyed with the idea that maybe we shouldn't because of those connections. But then we thought, well, you know, we're not that popular of a band necessarily to have to worry about that kind of thing, we thought. And is it fair to penalize guys who are necessarily doing a really good job for us? Why not use them just because of these historical connections with Terry, in Terry's case? And there's, I mean, Queensryche used Hugh Syme for a number, and still do use Hugh Syme for a number of CD covers. In fact, Queensryche used to be managed by the same management as Rush. So, I mean, I don't know. I think to some extent a lot of these cross connections of people just occur naturally because of the genre of music you're working in. I mean, Terry Brown was successful with all of those Rush albums because he was the right guy for the job, and it's the same thing with Hugh. And it just worked out that way, and we didn't worry too much about whether or not we had too many Rush connections.
Up in the weeds, playing hide and seek.